And honestly, it baffles me that I don't see these on more people's pedal boards. How's it going, guys? Steve and Joseph here, and welcome to what is my first video of the decade. And today I want to make a video about loop switches. I've been wanting to make this video for a while now because I feel like loop switches are one of the most underused pieces of guitar equipment out there. And I feel like guitarists are just really missing out on all the benefits that a loop switcher can bring. So in this video, I'm going to hopefully enlighten you and persuade you to go out and get a loop switcher of your very own. Now, even though I'm relatively new to the electric guitar game, for me it became clear very quickly that a loop switcher was going to be something that I needed on my pedal board. For me, the conventional setup of only being able to cue in and out one pedal at a time just wasn't cutting it. With my style of music, I want to be able to completely change my sound instantly with one click of a button. And I dare say many of you are exactly the same. So if I've piqued your interest, stay tuned because I'm going to list my 6 reasons why I think you should get a loop switcher. Now I guess I should start off by briefly explaining exactly what a loop switcher is. A loop switcher is a device that enables you to put each of your pedals in its own separate loop. Very simple. The send of the loop switcher goes into the input of the pedal, and then the output of the pedal goes into the return of the loop switcher, hence creating a loop. And each of the loops are isolated, so essentially you can cue in and out a pedal of your signal chain as and when you please. As you know, a conventional pedal setup is one pedal going straight into the other, which means that all the pedals are part of your signal chain all the time. And this can create numerous problems, many of which can be solved by using a loop switcher. How many times am I going to have to say loop switcher in this video? Loop switcher, loop switcher, swoop glitcher. So loop switchers, they come in all different shapes and sizes. You can have really simple ones that just have 2 separate loops, or you can have really complicated ones that have MIDI and presets and banks and all that sort of stuff, and they can have any number of pedals in them. So without further ado, I'm going to give you my 6 reasons why I think you need a loop switcher. Reason number 1, practicality. I think this one is fairly obvious. It's just easier to have all of your foot switches nicely lined up in one place on your pedal board than sort of scattered all about randomly, so you're sort of stabbing in the dark when you're looking for a pedal. It's just easier to have them right there in front of you. Simple, but it works. Reason number 2. High-end preservation. Now, as you know, pedals are normally connected in sequence, meaning that you have one pedal, which is connected to the other pedal, to the next pedal, so on and so forth. And whilst this isn't a big issue if you've got 3 or 4 pedals, if you're starting to run up a big number of pedals, you're going to have a long run of cable from your guitar to the front of the amp. And the more cable you use, the more you're going to experience a drop-off in the high end of your guitar. This is often referred to as tone suck. Now, whether this is really an issue or not is up for you to decide, but for me, I quite like a lot of presence in my tone, so I don't like the idea that my cable is deciding what tone I have and not me. Now, when using a loop switcher, this problem is greatly reduced, because instead of your signal being forced to run through all those pedals, now you get to pick and choose which pedals are being used in the chain. Now your signal's only running through the pedals that you need for that specific sound at that time. It's not being sent through unnecessary length of cable or pedals en route to your amp. Also, a lot of loop switchers have inbuilt buffers, and there again, you're going to be saving some of your high end. Reason number 3. It can act as a failsafe for faulty equipment, and possibly be a gig saver. Now, I don't know about you guys, but on more than one occasion, I have had a pedal or cable or power issue during a gig. Some of them minor, some of them pretty major. In a conventional pedalboard setup, if a patch cable goes faulty, you're not going to get any signal to your amp. No sound. Same thing if a battery in a pedal runs out, or the pedal itself just breaks for some reason mid-gig. Now, I don't have to tell you how much of a pain in the backside it can be trying to figure out what the issue is when you've just got one big long signal chain. You're there unplugging patch cables, replugging them, power, it takes forever. But because each pedal is in its own individual isolated loop, this makes it really easy to just remove it completely from your signal chain without having to rip any pedals off your pedal board or unplug and replug patch cables. Let's say one of your drive pedals stops working for some reason. Well, if you're like me and you've got multiple drive pedals, you can just remove that one from the chain, bring that one in, carry on with the gig. So far, all of the benefits I've talked about apply to all loop switchers. Doesn't matter how simple, how complicated, how cheap, how expensive. Everything I've said so far is true of all of them. But not all switchers are made equal. And there are some manufacturers out there like Boss and Gigrig and others who've created switchers with really advanced functionality. Ooh, that's hard to say. Things like savable presets, MIDI, buffers, inbuilt mixers, and we're going to get into those right now. Benefit number 4, the ability to change your pedal order instantly. So on some loop switchers, you're actually able to change the order of your loops without having to move your pedals around on your board at all. So for example, let's say in loop number 1, you've got a boost pedal, and then loop number 2, you've got a drive pedal. One song, you might want the boost running into the drive pedal, giving it an extra boost. Let's say in the next song you want to switch them around so that you get a volume boost from the boost pedal after the gain pedal. Now on a conventional pedal board, you'd have to literally unplug the cables and switch the pedals around. But with a loop switcher like the Boss ES5 for example, I can literally just do that with the twist of a knob. And this also makes experimenting with different pedal orders and stuff a lot easier. Benefit number 5. Presets! Having the ability to cue in multiple different pedals with the tap of one foot switch is a bit of a no-brainer. And I think it's fair to say this is probably the main reason why at least I went for a more expensive and advanced loop switcher, because I wanted to be able to cue in and out multiple different pedals with just the tap of one foot switch and not have to sort of do some weird tap dancing routine turning on and off loads of pedals at once. And in the case of my Boss, for example, you can literally have hundreds of different presets saved. But for me, the best thing is how it benefits my music and my live performance. If you stay tuned to the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I use my loop switcher in a live performance situation. And hopefully it will show you just how much better and more professional my performance and my music is just by using the switcher.
And finally,
benefit number 6. MIDI. This is something lots of switchers can do actually, not just the super expensive ones, which is you can use them to remotely control your MIDI compatible pedals. So if you've got a MIDI compatible reverb pedal, for example, foot switch 1, you could have a little bit of plate reverb, and then foot switch 2, you can have a big splashy hall reverb or whatever you want really. The point is, it's just a case of pressing one foot switch to change a ton of sounds. And if your MIDI device has a MIDI through function, then you're able to connect them all together and control lots of different pedals or devices. Again, with the click of one foot switch, you can change tons of presets. Now enough talk, I'm now going to show you my pedal board and do a little bit of playing and show you exactly how I use my switcher in context, and hopefully show you how a switcher can make your life a lot easier in a practical sense, but how it can also possibly enhance your music and open up new possibilities which just aren't really available when you're using the conventional pedal board method. So, let's go! Okay guys, so here we've got my pedal board. Now I'm just going to quickly explain the signal chain for you, because not every pedal is actually in the loop switcher. I decided to do this because a couple of my pedals are basically always on pedals, and they don't really need to be in the loop switcher. It's only got 5 loops available, so I had to be kind of picky about which pedals went in there. So I've got my Strat here, and that is going into my compressor over here, and then this goes into the input of the Boss ES5. Now in loop 1, I've got my fuzz. Loop 2, I've got the Riverside here. Loop 3 is the Zen Drive. Loop 4 is the Pure Sky, which is basically a Timmy clone. And finally, loop 5 is the HX Stomp. And then the output of the ES5 goes into my El Capistan, which goes into the Hall of Fame reverb, and then that is just going straight in to the front of my Vox AC10. Now, apologies to the OCD amongst you. I realize that the pedals aren't really in any sort of order, but that's kind of the point, because the order of the pedals that are in the switcher doesn't really matter. I can change them about as and when I please. Now I'm going to sort of run through, oh yeah, and the foot switch over here. This actually controls the bank up and down feature within the ES5. And this blue light here, this is indicating that I'm in memory mode, which is basically preset mode, which means that each of these foot switches is cueing in and out lots of different pedals before you're here. And also I've got a MIDI cable connected to the HX Stomp, very important, because as you can see, as I press the buttons here, the MIDI cable is sending patch changes to the HX Stomp, which is changing all the settings in there. Now I'm going to basically run you through a song from my band Black Star Jackals called Problems. It's actually one of the more simple songs, believe it or not. Just shows you how complicated things can get in our band. But there's 4 different presets for this song that I use. I've got my verse sound, which is basically clean. There's no distortion or modulation effects. I've just got the delay and a bit of reverb, and they're always on. I don't touch those throughout the whole song. Then I've got the chorus sound, which brings in a bit of sweep echo on the HX Stomp. Or a lot of sweep echo. And also that's bringing in the blue sky over there. It gives it a bit of a level boost, and also a bit more grit, a bit more distortion. Number 3 here is my solo sound, and that brings in another type of digital delay with mod, apparently, on the stomp, and also brings in the Zen drive here. Turn up the guitar. Now, I should explain that I've turned down the volume quite a lot on the Zen drive. The reason being, it would normally be about here, but I do have neighbors, and yeah, they don't appreciate it very much. Now, one of the great features I should explain about the ES5 is that it has its own inbuilt mixer, and what that means is I can actually change the output level of each individual preset to what I want. I think you can go plus or minus 12 dB, which is plenty to say the least. And basically for all of my solos, I put a plus 6 dB on the mixer just to bring it up, you know, in the band mix, make my solo stand out a bit more. All of the other levels are just at 0 dB. And then lastly, preset number 4 is the final chorus sound. We want the final chorus to be a bit more epic than all the other choruses before it. And that's brought in some more delays. It's a completely different patch on the ATEX stomp. And I've got 2 delays that are working on parallel paths there. And again, it brings in the pure sky over there. And that sounds a bit like this. So what I think I'll do is, I'm going to have to do it by hand, so it's not going to be as slick as what I can do by my foot. I'll just play little snippets of each part of the song, so you can get an idea of just how quickly I can completely change the mood and atmosphere of my tone by using the good old loop switcher down here. So, without further ado, this would be the verse. And then I go into the chorus. And then we got the solo. And then the finale. So yeah, hopefully that just gives you a small idea of the possibilities of what you can do with the, well, in this case, the Boss ES5, but there's obviously other switches available on the marketplace. And it really has been a game changer for me. It's probably one of the best buys. I know people don't like buying pedals that effectively don't make any sound, things like buffers and compressors and stuff. But honestly, I really, really highly recommend anyone who thinks that the performances live are sort of a bit clumsy and lacking, or maybe they just want to be able to introduce more than one pedal at once during a song. I highly recommend checking out something like the Boss ES5 or the Gig Rig switching system, or there are tons of other, I can't remember the names right now, but there are tons of other models available that do very similar things to this. But yeah, hopefully you can see how the most important thing is how it benefits the music. It just means that I can sound essentially a lot more professional than we are in a live context. Okay.